The war was finally over. At least that was what the palace servants whispered as they polished the tall crystal pillars of the Veyari throne hall. But for Princess Lysera, the word over did not mean peace. It meant silence, heavy and cold after years of fire. The great star banners of the Veyari Empire still hung in the air, glowing with soft blue light, but they felt hollow to her eyes. She walked slowly through the grand hall, armored boots clicking against the shining floor, and though the courtiers bowed low, she saw only their fear, not their respect. She had left them as a young warrior, her armor gleaming, her voice full of courage. She had fought across worlds, seen starships burn, and watched allies die under alien suns. She had returned scarred, weary, and different. Her people celebrated her as victorious, yet she felt no triumph in her chest. She carried too many ghosts. But there was one ghost that haunted her more than the others, a man. A human. Captain Elias Ward. He was not tall by Veyari standards. His armor was simple compared to their ceremonial suits, and his weapons looked brutal ugly, without the elegance of alien design. But when he had fought beside her, there was something in him that outshone all others, a fire, a reckless courage that no amount of fear could extinguish. It was Elias who had saved her life on the battlefield of Nivara when the enemy fleet had cornered them. It was Elias who had carried her from the wreckage when her command ship was struck. It was Elias who had looked at her, bleeding and broken, and said in his rough Terran voice, "I won't let you fall, princess. Not while I breathe." And then the humans were gone, vanished from the war. One morning, the Veyari High Council had received a message. All Terran fleets were withdrawing, effective immediately. No explanation, no warning, just silence. For years, Lysera fought without them. For years, she carried the memory of Elias like a wound inside her heart. Now standing in her own throne hall, the war behind her, the question burned hotter than ever. Had the humans forsaken her? Had he forsaken her? The throne room doors opened with a heavy sound. The High Council entered, robes sweeping across the floor. Their eyes, sharp and cold, studied her. "Princess Lysera," said Counselor Theriel, his voice like dripping ice. "Your return from the front is a relief to us all. The people see you as a hero, but the matter of rebuilding must now begin." "Yes," she replied, her voice steady though her heart trembled. "But I have questions first." The counselors shifted uneasily. "Questions?" "About our allies," Lysera said. She let her gaze sweep across them. "The Terrans, the humans." A shadow fell over the hall. Some counselors muttered. Some looked away. Theriel's lips tightened. "The humans abandoned us. Do not waste your thoughts on them. They are not worth your loyalty." "They saved my life," Lysera said, her voice sharper now. "They bled for us. They died on our soil. And you call them unworthy?" "Emotional weakness," Theriel snapped. "They ran when the cost grew too high." "That is the truth." But in her heart, Lysera knew it was not the truth. Elias Ward had never run from anything. He had faced monsters 3 times his size with only a broken blade. He had stood in the burning corridors of her flagship and carried her through fire when even her own guards had fled. No, she thought. That man would never run. The council would give her no answers. Their pride was too thick, their politics too heavy. But Lysera would find the truth herself. That night she stood on the palace balcony staring at the twin moons of her world. The air was cool, carrying the scent of the flowering trees below. Yet her chest felt heavy. Her guard captain, a tall woman named Saris, approached quietly. "You are restless, princess." "I am haunted," Lysera admitted. "By the war?" "By the ones who are missing." Lysera turned her eyes to the stars. "Do you believe the humans abandoned us?" Saris hesitated. "The council says they did, but the soldiers tell different stories. I have heard whispers from the veterans. Some say humans stayed behind to guard entire colonies even when ordered to retreat. Some say they fought until their last breath to save strangers. Others say they left only because they had no choice." Lysera's heart pounded. "Then the council lied. Or hid the truth," Saris said softly. Lysera's hands clenched against the railing. She remembered Elias's face, bloodied but defiant, as he shouted over the roar of fire, "I won't forsake you." Could a man like that truly have abandoned her? No, something was wrong. The next day, a great celebration was held in her honor. Fireworks lit the skies and the people cheered her name. The palace square overflowed with banners, music, and food. Children laughed and veterans saluted as she passed, but though she smiled, her heart remained far away. She looked up at the endless stars beyond the fireworks and thought of Earth, the distant home of humanity. When the celebration ended, she returned to her private chambers. There she removed her ceremonial armor and stood before the mirror. The scars on her face caught the light. She traced them with her fingers, remembering how Elias had once looked at her wounds without flinching, as if they were marks of honor rather than shame. She whispered into the empty room. Elias Ward. "Where are you?" The silence gave no answer. Days passed. Lysira began questioning soldiers, veterans, anyone who had fought beside the Terrans. Each story was different, but none spoke of cowardice. None described humans as quitters. One old soldier, half-blind and sitting by the river, told her in a raspy voice, "The humans fought harder than anyone, Princess. They never broke. When their fleets left, I do not think it was their choice, no. They left like soldiers forced to march away, not deserters." Lysira thanked him, her chest tight. Piece by piece, she gathered fragments of the truth. The council had told her humans were weak. The soldiers told her they were strong. The council said they ran. The soldiers said they stood their ground until the end. The contradiction gnawed at her. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Saris entered her chamber again. "Princess," she said quietly, "if you truly wish to know the fate of the humans—" "There are paths," Lysira turned. "What paths?" "Not official ones," Saris warned. "The council would forbid it. But I know of hidden routes, of smugglers and wanderers who travel beyond the Empire's maps. If you wish to find the Terrans, you must leave in secret." Lysira's heart leapt. Dangerous, reckless, forbidden. But it was the only way. She stepped closer, her voice steady. "Prepare a ship. At dawn we leave." Saris bowed her head. "As you command, Princess." That night Lysira could not sleep. She stood by the window, gazing at the stars, feeling both fear and hope twist inside her. Somewhere out there, beyond those endless lights, was the truth. Somewhere out there was Elias Ward. Princess Lysira's ship moved silently through the void, far beyond the reach of the Veyari Empire. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, glittering like frozen fires. The hum of the engine was the only sound in the command room. Yet inside her thoughts roared louder than any battlefield. She had left her homeworld in secret, her guards sworn to silence. Only Saris, her loyal captain, had agreed to accompany her. The rest of the crew were picked from trusted soldiers who knew the risks and would not speak a word to the council. For days, they traveled through uncharted space, following rumors, fragments of intelligence, and whispers of human colonies left behind by the Terran fleets. Every system they entered held the possibility of an answer, or a dead end. Lysira could not stop thinking about Elias Ward. His words, his courage, his rough laugh when they were cornered by enemy drones. All of it haunted her. "He would never leave me." She kept repeating it to herself, though doubt still crept at the edges of her mind. The first stop was a small, neutral planet named Theris 4. Its surface was covered with green plains and crystal rivers, untouched by the war that had ravaged other systems. It was rumored that a small human detachment had stayed behind here, guarding civilians from alien raiders long after the main fleets withdrew. Lysira and her team landed under the cover of night. The air was thin, clean, and filled with the scent of flowers. Humans were rare here, and the small village they sought looked abandoned. The windows of stone houses were dark and the streets were empty. "Perhaps the stories were wrong," Saris whispered. "Or perhaps they are waiting," Lysira replied. Her eyes did not leave the horizon. Something in the silence felt deliberate. They moved cautiously, scanning every corner. Finally, in the center of the village, they found an old human man sitting by a fire. His face was weathered, his uniform torn and faded, but there was a strength in his eyes that immediately reminded Lysira of Elias. "You seek the Terrans?" the man asked without rising. His voice was low, careful. "Yes," Lysira said. "I am Princess Lysira of the Veyari Empire. I need to know why they left." The man's eyes darkened. He glanced at her guards and then back at her. "The humans did not leave because they were weak. They left because they were forced. They saw something we could not stop, and they knew that staying would only destroy everything we fought for." Lysira's heart raced. "Forced? By whom?" He shook his head. by something far worse than the Veyari enemies, something that lurks in the shadows of space. The humans withdrew to fight it, to prepare, and they did not tell anyone, not the council, not your leaders, because no one would understand. Lysera's hands clenched. Her anger and relief collided in her chest. Then they did not forsake me. They were protecting us. The old man nodded. Your human captain, Elias Ward, he was the bravest among us. He never left anyone behind. Not then, not now. If you wish to find him, you must travel beyond the known systems. Beyond the maps your people trust. Lysera's eyes blazed. Tell me where he is. He hesitated. I cannot give you the exact location. The humans are hiding. They are gathering strength. But you will know him when you see him. He carries the fire of Earth with him. You cannot miss it. The next days were long and filled with tension. Lysera's ship moved through asteroid belts, dark nebulae, and abandoned stations. Every signal scanner they had was useless in the uncharted void. They relied on rumors, whispers, and Lysera's intuition. During one quiet moment, Saris approached her in the command room. Princess, are you certain you want this? To find the humans? Lysera did not look away from the stars. I must know the truth. I cannot live believing Elias Ward left me. He would never do that, Saris sighed. Then we continue. But know this, the humans may not welcome us. They have suffered enough. They have their own wars to fight. Lysera's jaw tightened. I do not care. I will face whatever they have become. I need the truth. After weeks of searching, they finally intercepted a faint distress signal near the outer rim of Veyari-controlled space. It was encrypted in an old Terran code, one that only a few in the Empire could understand. Lysera's heart leapt. This is it, she whispered. This is the trail. The signal led them to a hidden system, a small cluster of planets orbiting a dying star. On one of these planets, the surface was scorched, blackened, and lifeless. Yet in the distance, she could see signs of human activity. Fortifications, small settlements, ships docked in shadowed bays. They are here, Saris said quietly. Lysera's hands trembled as they landed. The settlement was eerily silent. The human guards were cautious, rifles raised, eyes sharp. They had the look of people who had endured betrayal and loss, people who had fought and survived against impossible odds. Finally, she saw him. Captain Elias Ward stood on a raised platform overseeing the fortifications. His hair was longer, streaked with gray, and his face bore the lines of countless battles. His eyes, however, were still sharp and alive. Lysera felt her breath catch. He had not aged in the ways of the heart. He had grown stronger, hardened by experience, but the fire in him, it was the same fire she remembered. She stepped forward, her voice trembling but loud enough to carry. Elias Ward, he turned. His eyes widened as he saw her, and for a moment, the battle-hardened soldier seemed frozen. Then recognition and relief washed over his face. Princess Lysera, he whispered, stepping down from the platform. His voice was thick with emotion. I thought you were lost. I thought you were lost, she said, her voice cracking. I thought you forsook us. Forsook me. He shook his head, his gaze steady. Never, I swear, Princess. Humanity does not forsake its friends, its allies. We had to withdraw. We had no choice. There was something coming, something bigger than any war we fought together. We had to prepare. We had to survive, so that we could return. Lysera's eyes filled with tears. And the council, they lied. They said you left us because you were weak. Elias's jaw tightened. They do not understand. And even if they did, it would not change what we had to do. I left with a purpose, and I kept my oath to you. For hours they talked. Lysera learned about the hidden enemy, the battles fought in secret, the colonies protected at great cost. The humans had saved thousands without telling a single Veyari leader. Her anger melted into awe. She had judged them unfairly for years, and now the truth burned bright in her mind. Humanity had not abandoned her. They had been the silent guardians all along. By the time night fell, the settlement was quiet again. Lysera and Elias stood together, looking at the dying sun over the horizon. You were right, she said softly. I doubted you. I questioned your loyalty. Elias shook his head, his rough hand brushing against hers. You were right to question. Trust is not given lightly, but I never betrayed you. Never. Lysera felt a strange warmth in her chest, a mixture of relief, admiration, and something deeper, respect for the human spirit that could endure anything, Even when all seemed lost, you will return to your empire, he asked. One day, she replied. But not yet. I need to see the galaxy with my own eyes to understand what humans have done, what humans can do. He smiled faintly. Then let us walk this path together, Princess. Not as soldier and ally, but as friends, and maybe more. Lysera did not answer immediately. She only nodded, knowing that words were not needed. The bond that had survived years of war, separation, and doubt was now stronger than ever. The stars outside the settlement were endless, but now they no longer seemed cold. They were full of possibility. And in the heart of that darkness, Lysera understood something important. Humanity was not perfect. They made choices others could not understand. They carried burdens others would abandon. But they never ever forsook those they cared for. The hidden planet was quiet, almost too quiet. The human settlement lay under the shadow of jagged cliffs, while the distant star struggled weakly against the black void. Princess Lysera stood at the edge of a ridge, looking down at the humans she had come to find, not as a princess, but as someone seeking the truth. Captain Elias Ward walked beside her, his armor scratched and worn from years of fighting. Even now he moved with the careful precision of a seasoned soldier. Yet beneath his rough exterior, Lysera could sense a fire that had never dimmed. You will meet my people, Elias said, but understand they have seen war, betrayal, and loss. They may not welcome outsiders easily, even you. I'm ready, Lysera said, though her heart thumped like a drum. They descended to the settlement. The humans, veterans, engineers, and young recruits watched silently as Lysera approached. She had expected suspicion, perhaps even hostility, but what struck her first was the discipline. Every movement, every glance showed training, focus, and resolve. These were people who had survived against impossible odds. An older man stepped forward, gray hair falling over his weathered face. Elias, he said. You brought her? Yes, Elias replied. Princess Lysera seeks answers. Let her hear the truth firsthand. The man nodded, then turned to the gathered soldiers. All right, let's begin. They led Lysera to a central hall built with steel and stone, simple but strong. On the walls were maps, star charts, and tactical plans. Lysera's eyes widened as she realized the scale of their operation. Humans had been building, training, and preparing for a threat that even the Ve'ari had not seen. Explain everything, Lysera said, her voice steady but demanding. Elias took a deep breath. The Ve'ari War was never the only battle. While we fought alongside you, we discovered an enemy hidden in the void. A force that feeds on conflict, chaos, and death. We call them the Umbral Fleet. Lysera frowned. Umbral Fleet? They strike silently, destroy entire fleets in minutes and leave nothing behind, Elias said. When your High Council saw us withdraw, they thought we abandoned them. But we did not. We were preparing for the Umbral Fleet. The older man stepped forward. We saw what would happen if we stayed in your war. The Umbral Fleet grows stronger when civilizations fight each other. They were hiding while we bled. Every battle we fought for the Ve'ari weakened us, and they thrived on it. If we had stayed, your people and ours would have been destroyed. Lysera felt her hands clench. The Council had lied to her. The humans had not forsaken her. They had saved her, her empire, and perhaps the entire galaxy without anyone knowing. You risked everything, she whispered. Elias nodded. We risked everything. That is the human oath. We do not leave our allies behind no matter the cost. But we must also act wisely. You see, the Council's pride they could not understand, so we prepared quietly for when the time came. Lysera's heart swelled with a mix of anger, awe, and relief. For years she had blamed humans. For years she had wondered if Elias had ever truly cared. And now the truth was clear. You honor your oath, she said softly, even when no one knew. Elias met her gaze. Always. The days that followed were filled with explanations and preparation. Humans showed Lysera their hidden fleet, built from abandoned ships, modified with weapons that no Ve'ari engineer would dare design. They explained how they had fought in secret, saving colonies and gathering intelligence about the Umbral Fleet. Lysera listened, absorbing every detail. Her admiration grew not only for Elias but for the human spirit itself. They were reckless, yes, but brilliant in ways the Ve'ari could not understand. They survived when others would have perished, adapted when others would have failed, and held true to promises that seemed impossible to keep. During one briefing, a young human lieutenant asked her, "Princess, will the Veari help us when the Umbral fleet arrives?" Lysera's lips pressed into a firm line. "They will not. My people are proud, yes, but also blind. They believe the war is over, and they see only what they want to see." The lieutenant frowned. "Then it is just us?" "For now," Lysera admitted. "But we are not alone, not really. I am here, and together we will face whatever comes." Elias stepped beside her. "Humans may act alone, but we fight with honor. That is our strength. We never give up. Not ever." One night, Lysera and Elias walked along the edge of the settlement. The dying star cast long shadows over the fortifications, and the cold wind of the barren planet cut through their armor. "You were right to doubt me," Elias said quietly. "I cannot blame you. The council lies, rumors spread, and trust is fragile. But you came. You sought the truth. And I found it," Lysera said, her eyes fixed on the black horizon. "Humans did not forsake me. They never did." Elias's rough hand brushed against hers. "Then we have begun to understand each other again. The path ahead is dangerous, but we walk it together. That is all that matters," Lysera nodded. "Together." The following days brought reports of Umbral fleet activity. Strange energy readings, sudden disappearances of trade ships, and blackouts in several systems. Elias gathered his commanders, humans and Veari alike, to plan a strategy. "You have seen our defenses," he said. "They are strong but not invincible. The Umbral fleet strikes with speed and secrecy. We must act first or we will be consumed." Lysera's mind raced. "Then we attack?" Elias shook his head. "Not yet. First, we gather more intelligence. We learn their tactics, their weaknesses. The humans survive because we plan, adapt, and endure. Rash action will only play into their hands." Lysera felt a mix of fear and admiration. Humans were unlike anything she had known, reckless yet wise, powerful yet careful. And Elias Ward was their heart, their guide, their oath made flesh. One evening, while examining star charts, Lysera asked Elias a question that had haunted her for years. "When you left the Veari fleets, did you ever think of abandoning me? Of letting me die?" Elias's gaze met hers, steady and unwavering. "Never. Even when all seemed lost, even when I was forced to retreat, my promise remained. You were never alone in my heart. The oath of humanity is simple, Princess. We do not forsake those who trust us." "Not then, not ever." Lysera felt tears prick her eyes. She had imagined betrayal, abandonment, and loneliness. And yet here he stood, truth and courage shining in his every word. "You have taught me something," she whispered. "That loyalty is not empty words. It is action, even in silence, even in darkness." Elias nodded. "And you have reminded us that trust can be earned again. That even in the galaxy's darkest corners, bonds endure." As days passed, the hidden human colony became a center of preparation. Lysera learned human tactics, weapons, and strategies. She trained with them, fought beside them in simulations, and witnessed the strength that came from unity and resolve. And always, Elias Ward was there by her side, guiding, protecting, inspiring. Lysera realized that humans were not perfect. They were flawed, stubborn, and often reckless. But their strength lay in their heart, their willingness to fight for what was right, and their refusal to abandon those who mattered. The Veari Council had called them deserters. Lysera now knew the truth. The humans had been guardians all along, silent, unseen, and unbroken. She would never doubt them again. But the galaxy was not yet safe. The Umbral fleet was moving, and soon its shadow would fall across both Veari and human worlds. And when it came, humans would be ready. Lysera's heart hardened with resolve. She would fight alongside them, no matter the cost, because she had seen the truth of the human oath, and she would not fail it. The void was silent at first. Only the hum of the human fleet broke the emptiness, a soft vibration against the hull of every ship. Princess Lysera stood on the bridge of the flagship, her eyes fixed on the darkness ahead. Beside her, Captain Elias Ward studied the star charts, fingers tracing patterns only he could read. "This is it," Elias said. "The Umbral fleet moves toward Veari space. They are faster than we expected. If we wait any longer, entire systems will fall." Lysera's jaw tightened. "Then we strike first. We cannot let them reach the colonies." Elias nodded. "But we must be smart. Speed alone will not win this fight. They feed on chaos. They want us to panic." The human fleet spread into formation, a mix of sleek Terran warships and heavily modified scavenged ships. Lysera watched in awe as the ships glimmered in the dim starlight, weapons humming, shields pulsing, engines ready. This was a fleet born not just from technology, but from human courage and experience. The first reports came quickly. Sensors detected strange shadows moving in clusters. Ships began disappearing in flickers of light, as if the stars themselves were swallowing them. The Umbral fleet had arrived. "Enemy contacts at 6 o'clock, one officer shouted. "They're cloaked!" Lysera's hands clenched the rail. "We knew they were fast, but this..." Elias barked orders. "All ships maintain formation. Target their shadows, but don't chase blindly. Draw them toward the trap." The trap was simple, yet daring. Human tactics were unlike anything the Veyari had ever seen. The fleet used decoys, energy pulses, and sudden evasive maneuvers that made the Umbral shadows hesitate. Lysera watched as ships darted in patterns that seemed chaotic, yet were calculated to confuse the enemy. It was like watching a dance, dangerous, beautiful, and terrifying. A shadow struck one of the forward human ships. The explosion lit the void like a dying star. Lysera flinched, gripping the railing. "Casualties?" "Minimal," Elias said. "Our training works. We predicted this." But the battle was only beginning. Another wave of the Umbral fleet emerged, faster, larger, and more aggressive. They attacked in silence, moving through the darkness like ghosts, striking with precision and disappearing before anyone could respond. Lysera's mind raced. She had never seen combat on this scale. Entire fleets seemed to vanish in moments, and yet humanity endured. She could see it in Elias's commands, in the way his officers executed complex maneuvers without hesitation. The humans fought with a combination of courage and instinct that no alien could match. "They are pushing us," Lysera said. "We need to..." Elias interrupted. "Do not engage rashly. Let them come. Their overconfidence will be their weakness." The Umbral fleet made a mistake. In their confidence, they focused on striking the forward human ships while leaving the rear exposed. Elias seized the moment. "Flank them from the starboard side. Concentrate fire on the largest cluster now." The fleet moved with breathtaking precision. Lasers cut through the shadows. Engines screamed as ships maneuvered at impossible angles, and the void exploded with light and fire. Lysera could feel the power of human ingenuity. They were not just fighting. They were dancing through death, bending the rules of space combat with a reckless brilliance. During the battle, Lysera found herself on the front lines in the command room. She watched as ships maneuvered, energy shields flared, and the Umbral fleet began to falter. Every move was precise, every strike calculated. The humans had predicted every possible outcome. She turned to Elias. How can you fight like this?" Elias's eyes never left the holographic display. "Because we must. Humans survive because we refuse to give up, no matter the odds. And because we fight for something bigger than ourselves. That is the difference between us and them." Lysera nodded, understanding the truth in his words. Humans did not just survive. They overcame, adapted, and turned impossible situations into victories. She had seen it in the war in Elias, and now she saw it again in the void of space. The battle raged for hours. Shadows struck repeatedly, but the humans responded faster, harder, and smarter. Lysera's heart pounded as she saw ships explode, debris spinning through the void. Yet still the fleet held. At one point, a massive shadow ship appeared, larger than any she had seen, pulsing with dark energy. The humans hesitated for a fraction of a second, enough for Lysera to realize the danger. "That is their command ship," Elias said. "If we take it down, the rest will scatter." "We must hit it together," Lysera nodded. She felt fear, yes, but also determination. This was not just a fight for survival. It was a test of everything humans stood for. "Prepare the main cannons," Elias ordered. "All ships target the core." "Fire on my mark, mark." The fleet responded instantly. Beams of pure energy struck the shadow ship, ripping through its defenses. Explosions rocked the void as smaller ships darted around, avoiding counterattacks. The massive enemy began to falter, staggering under the coordinated assault. Lysera could feel the excitement, the tension, the sheer will of humans to survive. Every second counted, every action mattered. Finally, with a thunderous explosion, the Shadow Command ship shattered. The remaining Umbral vessels retreated into the darkness, leaving the human fleet victorious but battered. Lysera exhaled deeply, her knees weak. She had never experienced anything like this. The human fleet, against impossible odds, had won. Not through luck, not through alien technology, but through courage, ingenuity, and the refusal to surrender. Elias turned to her, a small smile on his face. "See, I told you we never give up." Lysera stepped forward, her eyes shining. "You fought for the galaxy, for us, and you did not fail." He shrugged as if it were simple. "It is what humans do. We keep our word. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is the human oath. The victory came at a cost. Several human ships were lost and casualties mounted, but the morale of the fleet was stronger than ever." Lysera walked among the surviving crews, speaking to them, listening to their stories, and realizing that each human carried not just strength, but a story of sacrifice, loyalty, and courage. "They are incredible," she whispered to Saris. "I knew humans were strong, but this is something else," Saris nodded. "And they fight not just for themselves, but for all who cannot fight. That is why they endure." Lysera understood fully now. Humans were flawed, yes. They were reckless, stubborn, and sometimes unpredictable. But when they chose to fight, they gave everything, heart, mind, and soul. And when they swore an oath, no power in the galaxy could break it. As the fleet repaired and regrouped, Elias came to her side. "Princess," he said quietly, "this is only the beginning. The Umbral fleet will return, stronger and faster, but we are ready, and with you here, we are stronger still." Lysera looked out at the stars, the void stretching endlessly, dark and dangerous, yet full of possibility. "Then we will face them," she said. "Together," Elias nodded. "Together." And in that moment, Lysera realized something important. It was not just human technology or tactics that had won the day. It was the spirit, the courage to face impossible odds, the refusal to surrender, the loyalty to friends and allies. That spirit, that fire, could overcome any darkness in the galaxy. The stars outside glimmered faintly, reflecting the energy of the fleet. And in the darkness, humans burned brighter than any star. The galaxy had learned a lesson. Underestimate humanity at your own peril. The void was quiet after the storm. The remnants of the Umbral fleet had fled into the darkness, leaving the human and Veyari forces to regroup. The silence was almost deafening after the chaos of battle, but Princess Lysera did not feel relief. She felt anticipation. She knew the fight was not over. Elias Ward stood beside her on the bridge of the flagship, his face marked with fatigue and soot from the battle, yet his eyes were bright with determination, the same fire Lysera had remembered all those years ago. "You held your oath," Lysera said quietly. Elias gave a small, tired smile. "And you kept yours. You did not turn away from the truth even when it was uncomfortable. That matters as much as any weapon." Lysera nodded. She had learned much in these past weeks about humans, about loyalty, about courage. The war had taught her that strength was not only in weapons or fleets, but in hearts and minds that refused to yield. The combined human and Veyari fleets moved to the edge of the Umbral fleet's territory. Reports suggested the enemy was gathering for a counterattack, rebuilding from their losses. This time Lysera knew they would come stronger. "Princess," Elias said, "we can strike now before they consolidate, but it is risky. Many lives could be lost." Lysera's jaw tightened. "We cannot wait. If we strike at the right moment, we can end this threat once and for all. We have the element of surprise and we have each other." "That is enough." Elias studied her carefully. "You are certain?" "I am certain," she replied. "Humanity has taught me that courage matters more than certainty." The plan was simple in theory but dangerous in practice. The fleet would split into several groups, creating decoys to lure the Umbral shadows into traps. The human ships would use bold maneuvers, unpredictable patterns, and precision strikes to dismantle the enemy fleet piece by piece. Lysera watched as officers and soldiers prepared, feeling awe at the coordination, bravery, and sheer ingenuity of these people. "They are incredible," she whispered to Saris. "Every move is perfect chaos." Saris smiled faintly. "That is why humans survive. They fight not for glory, but for what is right. They do not abandon those who need them." Lysera clenched her fists. That was the lesson she had needed all along. The battle began at dawn. Shadows erupted from the void like ink in water, striking with silent precision. The humans responded instantly, their ships darting, firing, and dodging with a grace that seemed impossible. Lysera's heart pounded as she watched the clash unfold. Explosions lit the void. Ships spun and collided, and the Umbral fleet struck again and again. Yet the humans endured, their tactics flawless, their courage unwavering. Lysera could see the difference between them and the enemy. The shadows fought only to kill. Humans fought to protect, to save, and to survive. Elias barked commands, his voice sharp and precise. Focus fire on the central cluster. Protect the rear. Prepare for boarding if they breach shields. Lysera followed every order, coordinating Veari support and learning quickly from the humans' methods. Together they moved as one, combining skill, courage, and strategy. Hours passed. The Umbral fleet grew desperate, striking harder, faster, and with more aggression. One massive shadow ship broke through the defenses, aiming directly for the human command ship. Lysera felt her stomach twist as alarms blared. Elias grabbed her arm. Stay calm. We will stop it. She nodded, trusting him completely. The human crews moved with synchronized precision, and in a breathtaking maneuver they trapped the shadow ship between two fleets. Weapons fired simultaneously, beams slicing through its hull. Lysera watched as the massive vessel shuddered, then exploded, sending debris scattering across the void. The enemy morale shattered, and the remaining ships retreated, unable to regroup under coordinated human and Veari fire. The victory was hard-won. Casualties were significant, but the fleets remained strong. The Umbral fleet had been stopped, and their shadow loomed no longer over the galaxy. For now. Lysera walked among the surviving soldiers, speaking to humans and Veari alike. She listened to stories of bravery, sacrifice, and cunning strategy. She saw wounded soldiers being carried to safety, and she saw humans shielding aliens with their own bodies. They are more than warriors, Lysera whispered to Saris. They are guardians. They fight for everyone, not just themselves. Saris nodded. And they never ever abandon a comrade. Not one. Lysera felt tears prick her eyes. For years she had doubted humanity. She had believed the rumors, the lies of the council. But now she knew the truth. Humans were unbroken, loyal, and unstoppable when they chose to act. That evening, Elias found her standing alone on the deck of the flagship. The void stretched endlessly, calm now, as if the universe itself were holding its breath after the battle. You have seen it, Elias said softly. The truth of humanity. Lysera turned to him, her eyes glistening. I have. You never forsake your word, your allies. Me, he smiled faintly. And you have never abandoned the search for the truth. That is why we survive, because people like you, Princess, fight even when it seems hopeless. She took a deep breath. I doubted you for too long. I accused you and your people of betrayal. I was wrong. Terran courage is unmatched. You are humanity at its finest. Elias stepped closer. And you, Lysera, are the Veari spirit, resolute, brave, and wise. Together we are unstoppable. You and I, humans and Veari, side by side. Lysera smiled, feeling a weight lift from her chest. Side by side, she agreed. The following weeks were spent rebuilding, repairing, and strengthening alliances. The humans remained cautious, but they shared knowledge, strategies, and technology with the Veari. Lysera worked tirelessly to bridge the gap between her people and the humans, teaching them what she had learned: courage, loyalty, and the value of true allies. The Veari High Council, once proud and blind, began to see humanity differently. Reports of their bravery, ingenuity, and sacrifices reached the Empire, and slowly, admiration replaced suspicion. Lysera watched as humans and Veari trained together, fought together in simulations, and shared stories of battle. She realized that the bond formed in war could not be broken. It was stronger than politics, fear, or distance. One evening, as Lysera walked through the fleet, she saw Elias helping a young human cadet repair a damaged ship. He laughed softly at her questions, patient and kind. Seeing him like this, Lysera realized the man she had admired, fought beside, and feared losing had never changed. She approached him quietly. Elias, she said. He turned, smiling. Princess, I am sorry for doubting you, she said softly. For thinking you could abandon me. I know now that humanity does not forsake those who matter. Elias shook his head. No apology needed. You had to see the truth for yourself. And now you have. We do not forsake our allies. That is the human way. That is the oath we live by. Lysera smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. And I will never doubt it again. The galaxy, once chaotic and divided, began to change. Human fleets were no longer underestimated. Other alien civilizations learned to respect their courage, their loyalty, and their unbreakable spirit. The Veyari Empire became a closer ally, working alongside humans in ways it had never imagined. Lysera stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars, now calm and full of promise. She thought of the battles, the sacrifices, and the lessons learned. Humanity had shown its strength, not through domination but through loyalty, courage, and unwavering resolve. Elias came to stand beside her, silent for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice firm and gentle. "You see, Princess, we fight not for glory, not for power. We fight because it is the right thing to do. And we do not abandon those who trust us," Lysera nodded. "And I have seen it, Elias, I have seen the truth. Humanity does not forsake, not then, not now, and it never will." He extended his hand and she took it. Together they looked out at the stars, ready for whatever the future might bring. In that moment, Lysera knew the galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humans were not just warriors, they were protectors, guardians, and allies unlike any other. They were unbroken, unyielding, and unforgettable,